Hi, I'm Vishesh, presenting on behalf of the GNC and propulsion team at Team Indus. The title of our presentation is Optimum Engine Configuration for Scientific Payload Delivery Lunar Landers. I will take you through the objective, an overview of the mission and design strategy, methodology, system requirements identification involving effective thrust and ISP studies, and design constraint studies like attitude control requirements, thrust variability requirements, etc. We propose a set of optimum thruster selection criteria and give justifications for their salient features. We perform a study for a sample configuration and conclude. Objective is to to propose a guideline for selection of an optimum propulsion system based on universal constraints and capabilities required for landing missions. So we use LEM, which is Lunar Exploration Mission Platform, as a reference. And given from our studies, we are able to identify a liftoff mass range around 1,000 kilograms to 6,000 kilograms for scientific payload delivery. We present challenges in propellant budget, system redundancy, the performance availability, and heritage of commercially available engines as well. So two predominant ways to perform an orbital injection for lunar mission. So one, directly insert an Earth-bound orbit on geostationary transfer orbit, and a fast orbital transfer to a direct lunar transfer trajectory. Each of these paths from injection to pre-descent consumes a delta V of 1800 and 800 meters per second respectively. Pre-descent is the phase just before initiation of the lunar descent burn. And we also give in the table 2 a split of the maneuvers that are performed to lower the lunar orbits until the lunar descent maneuver is conducted. So these are conservative numbers. And finally, the lunar descent itself is broken up into a braking phase, approach phase, turn, and terminal descent until the touchdown. So based on the range of entry masses, the geometry of the trajectory might differ. Our methodology involves an initial system requirement identification. We build a model of uh, payload versus the dry mass of the system. And based on the selection of available, suitable, and cost-effective launch vehicle, we have most of our mission design inputs. We take these inputs together and perform the study for thrust and ISP versus payload delivery. So in order to conduct the lunar descent, the magnitude of thrust and ISP required. And given the design constraints of delta V, control torques, and thrust variability, we proceed on to study the optimum propulsion system modes. We then perform the optimum propellant selection, and based on the known engine families, we select the number of main, augmenting, and control engines, and we assign a score for each of these configurations. And for any of these configurations, if they meet the selection criteria, we select them as an optimum engine configuration. On to the left, which is table 3, the system must have a delivery capability of delta V up to 3.1 kilometers per second, must have a thrust which can deliver more than the weight of the lander during the terminal descent to ensure a vertical control of velocity. The system shall allow the attitude control of spacecraft within the required and at rate deadbands, attitude and rate deadbands. And there should be axial thrust control using pulsability or throttleability. Uh, uh, then the system shall be able to tolerate the failure of a single engine in the ACTs or TATs, which are attitude control thrusters and thrust augmenting thrusters. The thrust augmenting thrusters are aligned longitudinally, provide thrust when required and variable thrust when required. And the system shall be capable of being lifted by a medium to heavy lift rocket into an LTT injection. Now, based on certain design points of 50 kilograms, 250 kilograms, 630, and 830 kilograms, we did internal studies and identified what kind of a system dry mass would be required for basically having each of these payloads. And we see a roughly linear trend for this payload versus dry mass. So we fit based using regression, we fit a model between the dry mass and the payload. And with some engineering factor considered, we also choose a particular targeted landed mass as shown in table 4. So we are identifying a range of payloads which are between 50 to 1000 kilograms, and this is our ultimate aim. If we are able to deliver the full range, that's the most ideal configuration. In figure 4, we describe that once we have uh, chosen a particular landed mass, targeted landing mass, uh, an effective thrust and ISP of the system would be able to deliver a certain payload range, which can cater to that which can lie within that landed mass. And so in essence, the figure 4 represents the capabilities of these thrust ISP, effective thrust ISP combinations uh, to deliver the payload ranges identified through the color bar. So as expected, the thrust and ISP increase, the payload range increases, and however, the value of the payload range saturates after uh, the last thrust ISP contours, and there's very marginal increase of the payload beyond that. And once we have identified using this thrust ISP for a particular payload range, and we've identified that there's a certain orbital strategy, and hence a certain delta V for orbits, we also provide the contour plots for launch mass range. Throughout these studies for lunar descent, we have used the guidance law proposed by Cherry, which was used in the Apollo missions. Now, on the right, the algorithm is described as a flowchart, ultimately starting from a payload mass to identify the effective thrust and ISP of the system. And on to the left, we set certain attitude control requirements, which are 3-axis control. So we have set attitude and rate dead bands to be 0.2 and 0.2 degrees per second, respectively. We need to make sure that the ACS system has the capability to deliver torque which are greater than the disturbance torque, maximum disturbance torque multiplied by a control margin. And we study both kinds of ACS systems which are coupled and decoupled. The coupled systems will provide 3-axis control, but they also provide a translational force when they fire, when the thrusters fire. However, the major advantage of coupled systems over the decoupled system is they require much lesser number of thrusters. Whereas decoupled thrusters can do independent attitude control without providing any translational force, but the number of thrusters that they require is a minimum of 12. So we recommend that we go with coupled ACS if there's no overriding requirements for having a decoupled ACS. We also consider the thrust variability requirements. According to one reference, the ratio is to be 4:1 or more, and the thrust range could be achieved either by throttling itself or mimic throttling through reaction control thrusters. For thrust vector control TVC using gimbal mechanisms, we have seen that systems with a higher L by D geometry tend to consider the TVC mechanisms, and considerations have to be uh, uh, there for, say, maintaining the lander's tanks below the overall CG, and there needs to be a stability and control needs to be very carefully studied. The following propellant combinations we study, ranging from cryo, semi-cryo, hypergolic, green, solid, hybrid propellants. And we've listed down pros and cons for each. And obviously the highest impulse is delivered by the set of semi-cryo and cryo combinations. Uh, However, for the given scientific payload delivery range, we don't see in commercially available engine models for the thrust range that we need. So we've listed down pros and cons for each of these propellant combinations and ranked them in this table. Similarly, system modes table has been drafted where system types are distributed into unified bipropellant, a unified monopropellant system, dual mode system, and hybrid propellant systems. Their main engine and ACT thrust range have been given, and pros and cons have been listed for each. So similar to the previous table, we have identified based on ISP in the simplicity of design and complexity of structural design and AIT, uh, um, factors like those. We have ranked each of these propulsion system modes. And clearly there's advantages in having a unified system. So here are our performance parameters, P1 to 6. So P1 refers to a normalized payload range. So P1 is a ratio of the max to min payload achieved versus targeted. So for example, if you're targeting 50 to 1,000 kilograms as a maximum range, if the configuration is able to deliver the same, this factor becomes 1. Otherwise, we have a ratio between 0 and 1. P2 refers to a minimum system hardware. In this formula that we have presented, N, M, and P refer to the number of thrusters in each class. And for each class, the mass and power consumed by the engines of that class. They are summed up over all the classes, and in the numerator is the sum which is for the minimum combinations, for minimum configuration, and we compare it uh, with the current configuration. So clearly, again, if the factor goes towards 1, you tend to minimize the number of thrusters and mass and power that exists in your configuration. And P3 now refers to the complexity of the design, which has been broken up into factors like lead time and cost, structural adaptability, storability, handling, toxicity, and each of them has been broken down quantitatively to give an overall P3 performance parameter between 0 and 1. P4 refers to heritage. If your engines have been used in flight before, it's 1, otherwise 0. And there's a similar factor for redundancy. The system must ensure that at least uh, it is has the capability to recover even if it's, one of the thrusters fail. And finally, it's a thrust variability metric. So it is a joint metric for throttability and as well as the fineness of control. Tmin to Tmax is a ratio which indicates throttability, and step max is reference to the finest thrust that could be put in the system. So if you have a 22 Newton step that you could take in your design, that refers to the fineness control, which is divided by the ratio of the minimum thrust. So finally, the average of all these P1 to P6 is considered and considered as an overall performance metric. And if this metric exceeds 0.8, we choose it as an optimum value. So we propose 7 configurations which range from like all the propulsion modes and the engine classes that we discussed, and 2 configuration IDs 1 and 3 seem to have a score of greater than 0.8. Common features among them is 8 thrust augmentation thrusters and 8 attitude control thrusters. We see that both these combinations have a very good payload range and P1, and they have considered they are like a best of all the worlds that we are looking at. So having redundancy, having some flight heritage and all. Clearly, configurations involving green thrusters are yet to be proven for the thrust and ISP that the others deliver. So these are the 2, and the highest amongst the 2 is the configuration ID 1. Salient features are it provides all the maneuvers, controls, and thrust variation requirements for the mission, minimizes the number of thruster hardware. It's a unified system having heritage, having block redundancy. It has coupled ACS and has shown to mimic a throttle system. So we conclude by the fact that optimum configuration is X main engines, Y augmentation thrusters, and 8 ACTs, and selection criteria is performed. So uh, that's our methodology, and we invite other researchers to um, propose their own metrics. Thank you. That's it from me. Thank you.